Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hopefully you guys are doing good. My name is Itai, and today I'm going over the semifinals match in Pogchamps 2. Notice that the finals match is tomorrow, so make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out. But now let's get on with the match. So it's Easywithaces against Zexrow. Easywithaces starts with the white pieces. We see d4, and then we see g6. Very rare, and it allows white to get this doubled central pawns, which is not really what black wants. But then in this position, it gets even worse because white manages to close up this position here. So even though the bishop can get fianchettoed, it's going to be stuck because of the pawn, and obviously the bishop can't go out here. Also, this knight is stopping this bishop. So black does have quite some work when it comes to developing black's pieces. And Easywithaces is doing a relatively good job of having control in the game. We see b4. Usually, it's not that good to push pawns on any side of the board before your king is safe, before you finish development. But I think in this case it is fine because it's coming with tempo. The knight's going to have to move, and then you can castle into a very safe position where your king is completely fine, and I think the game is very okay here. Now, notice that Easywithaces definitely should have taken here on passant. Instead, we see the move b5. I don't know how much of a fan I am of this move, but it does, it's an alright move. Here the bishop comes to e3, and you'll notice that bishops don't seem very powerful in this position. So when the knight moves over here offering a trade, some people might say, okay, you should probably, defend the bishop and take the trade somehow. But honestly, I would recommend not to do this. I would recommend to move the bishop to e2, where you still have this potential to resolve this tension here, and then the bishop could very easily become a key factor. So I think, for example, this bishop, it's very sad, and it doesn't seem like it's going to have a chance to really get into the game. But this light square bishop on the queen side might have a chance to influence the game. So I would recommend doing this. Instead, the bishop comes to a2 instead. I don't like this move at all because, again, this structure is most likely not going to get, it's not going to change most likely. The knight gets developed, bishop to g5, black castles. The queen moves on to e8. Rook e1, bishop hits the queen moves. You could also in this position very easily play f3. I think that might be also a strong choice. Instead, the queen moves, and now we see h5. So black is going to try to add pressure to a king that right now feels very safe. So black's starting a push, moving some pieces over here to the king side. Bishop moves. Now we finally see a trade. And in this position, I think it's fine to trade because notice how powerful the knight is. I think before the bishop did have chances here on e2. Also, the bishop would have stopped any threats on the queen. But in this position, look at how powerful this knight is. It is really doing a lot. In fact, once the queen moves to defend, there's a very beautiful fork that you can now do of the queen and the rook. He doesn't find this, but then he finds it the next move. He manages to win the exchange. It seems very good for Easywithaces. He does lose a pawn, but he's still in a relatively winning position. Queen moves back. Some more trades happen, and look at how the position is opened up, which means that now the bishop might be a little bit more powerful. Notice that black's bishop still is not very happy here. You're definitely going to try to reroute it down to f8 and then maybe move it onto the queen side. That's what I would recommend because it's probably not going to be able to be enabled on any of these diagonals here. Queen moves back, bishop moves, and so here's kind of the position that I'm talking about. The bishop decides to go here. I would recommend instead hopping it back and rerouting it this way, but it's all right. The knight moves. We see a pawn that's lost. A trade here, and now the knight goes over, and we see a huge blunder here of the knight. So Easywithaces has a lot of material. The bishop goes ahead. We have a trade of pawns, and obviously mate is very quickly. So Easywithaces does a great job here to he does a great job in the middle game, opening up the position, taking some pawns, and not blundering. That's a huge thing for him. So that was a great game. Let's move on to game 2. So Zexrow has the white pieces. We see the ready opening. And what you'll notice is Easywithaces trades the bishop for the knight very early on. That's not something I would recommend. Because white took with this pawn, it does create some weaknesses on the king side, but it does also allow the move e4 to be very powerful because of take-take, this is a very nice center that white has. So if you analyze this position, you'll notice that white most likely wants the castle queen side to stay away from this very broken structure here. In the actual game, a trade happens, and now white makes a pretty big mistake, which is trading the bishop for the knight. The reason this is bad is because you already have the disadvantage of this weak structure here on the king side. And so your only advantage is your double, your two bishops. So trading it doesn't make a lot of sense. We see a blundered pawn. Easy with aces does grab it up. And here's a very critical moment. We see rook to g1. And this is beautiful because you're attacking the pawn and you're threatening to win this pawn. And the only good move, defending everything and also unleashing an attack on h4. It's a really solid idea. So great job by Easy with Aces here. The pawn is blundered. Easy with Aces grabs it up. Another pawn is blundered. So Easy with Aces has a pretty big advantage here. And what you'll notice is that Easy with Aces tries to, trade more pieces out, which he actually does successfully. And then we get to a more tricky position. This pawn is very weak. This bishop is obviously, very weak. So the queen defends the bishop. But then we see take. Notice that if this didn't come with check and if the queen wasn't defending, this could be very dangerous. But the fact that this number one comes with check but also defends this bishop makes this move very powerful. In fact, once the king moves here, there's already possible ideas, not in this position, but in the future of maybe e4 followed by c4 just because of the pawn that controls both of these squares. So there are some ideas here. Notice that white does not really trade here. I think that's a great, good choice. And here is what I'm talking about. The queen moves away from the fourth rank, giving black a very nice idea. Queen here, king is forced here, and now mate right here. There's no spot that the king can go to. Notice that you could also mate here, which makes it a very beautiful position because it's very rare that you can mate in two ways in the exact same position. And that's all because of this rook and the pawn controlling very critical squares. So there was a chance for Easy with Aces to mate here. Instead, he doesn't see it. He sees the first move, but then instead he does this check, ends up trading rooks, and this is still a very much winning position. But then it gets tricky. In this position, you have a very nice tactical idea. Queen to c4. The king moves back here, and now you have this very nice fork. So this was very good. But if black doesn't see this, this could be very dangerous. For example, let's say black does a random move. Let's see what actually happened. So the bishop went over here to e3. Well, now you have take, and you can actually force a draw here. You don't want to do that as a white because obviously a draw means you lose the match. But that was something you could have done. So he doesn't go for the draw. He gives a couple of checks, but then black has a chance to trade. And you'll notice there is another chance to do a draw, but that doesn't happen. And in this position, it's just going to be a draw. You trade the queens, and that's how the game ends. So Easy with Aces does win in the semifinals, meaning he's moving on to the finals tomorrow. And once again, if you guys want to make sure that you don't miss out, make sure you subscribe so you manage to watch the finals. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.